So, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada has resigned after a decade in power, coming in front of his house, his official residence, and saying that he will be stepping down as leader of Canada's Liberal Party and subsequently as Prime Minister of Canada. He will, of course, be staying on as Prime Minister until early March, which is when Parliament is supposed to be coming back again. Apologies, let me correct myself. He is expected to stay in power until the Liberal Party elects a new leader, which is expected to take place sometime soon. The new leader, of course, will then take over as Canada's Prime Minister. Again, before we get into what exactly has happened over the last couple of days, who the likely contenders are to replace him, what this means for India, let's listen in to that clip of Justin Trudeau resigning as Prime Minister.
My friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians, I care deeply about this country, and I will always be motivated by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be.
So that was Justin Trudeau resigning as Prime Minister, announcing that after weeks of speculation, he will be stepping down as leader of the Liberal Party, a party that he has led for well over a decade, and will, of course, be making way for a new Prime Minister as well. Now, what's going to happen is that the Liberal Party of Canada is going to elect a new leader. That leader is going to become Prime Minister, and then what you are likely going to see is people going to Parliament, which is set to convene again in around March, in the last week of March, and then you are going to see a short period of time before Canada goes in for another election. That is where we are at this point in time. But what exactly led up to this? Well, what we have seen is that for weeks and weeks now, a number of Canadian members of Parliament, especially from the Liberal Party, have been pressuring Justin Trudeau to resign. He has been Prime Minister now for 9 years. This is in fact his 10th year in office. He has faced increasing unpopularity for his government's a perceived failure to handle the economy, handle the housing crisis. He was seen as the force behind a very unpopular carbon tax. He was also seen as the force behind an extremely generous immigration policy, opening Canada's doors to immigrants from all over the world, including from India, that now the government has had to backtrack on. They admit that they have had to pull up stakes a little bit, pull back the number of refugees that will be allowed into Canada, as well as the number of immigrants that will be allowed into Canada. And a lot of those policies that have become so unpopular have been personally linked to the Canadian Prime Minister. Apart from the fact, of course, that he has been Prime Minister for a decade, there is anti-incumbency and a general exhaustion with his leadership. The sense is that he has not delivered on the promises that he made when he became Prime Minister in 2015. And not only has the economy suffered, inflation has been high, housing has been difficult to find. There has been a massive escalation in the price of housing in Canada in a way that has hurt ordinary people. So the economic issues are definitely one set of issues. Of course, you also have the carbon tax as well as immigration issues that were again politically mismanaged and were decisions that he himself, Justin Trudeau himself, was personally associated with. Now, because of that, because of these factors, you have seen a declining trend of support for the Liberal Party in Canada. Remember, this is a party that is going to be going into elections. The general election is scheduled in Canada later this year, and polls are overwhelmingly showing. In fact, 73% of Canadians have said that they want Justin Trudeau to step down as Prime Minister. A very, very small percentage, barely double digits of people want Justin Trudeau to continue as Prime Minister of Canada. That is the situation that we are in at this point in time in terms of the politics of Canada. Now, the greater concern at this point in time is who replaces him, what this means for India, and that is also something that we are going to explain to you just now. But really, over the last couple of months, mounting pressure on Justin Trudeau to resign. Several of his parliamentarians came out and said, look, we would like you to step down. He resisted that pressure for a very long time until, of course, the New Year's holidays and Christmas holidays, according to reports in the Canadian media, where he got a number of members of parliament, Liberal members of parliament, who took the time to reflect and said that they would like him to step down as Prime Minister. And in fact, this had become then a majority of members of parliament from his Liberal Party. Remember that Justin Trudeau already governs as part of a minority coalition. He does not have a majority in parliament, and all of this meant that he was ultimately forced to step down as Prime Minister, and he will serve for another couple of months, but then his party will go into an election, the 2025 election, led by a new figure. Now, who exactly is that figure likely to be? Well, there are three candidates that are being considered right now to be in the running. There's Chrystia Freeland, of course, the former finance minister, former deputy prime minister, really seen as Trudeau's number two in some senses. Someone whose resignation just a couple of weeks ago absolutely shattered the Liberal Party's confidence in Justin Trudeau's government, because she was his closest political ally, or was seen to be one of his closest political allies, and her resignation, she was seen to be hung out to dry in some senses by the Justin Trudeau's government, made to defend policy she didn't believe in, was being reshuffled out of the cabinet, and that meant that she had to resign, and it showed that this was a government that was really falling apart. Chrystia Freeland, therefore, experienced, well-liked in the party, is someone who is a top frontrunner to be the next Prime Minister. There is also Dominic LeBlanc, who is currently the Finance Minister, very, very close associate of Justin Trudeau. In fact, they're childhood friends. But question, of course, being, does his close association to Trudeau make him enough of a break from the past for the Liberal Party to go to the people of Canada and say, look, we've dumped Justin Trudeau, we want another term in office from you? That is not particularly clear. And of course, one of the names that has been in circulation is Mark Carney, the governor of the former governor of the Bank of England, a respected economist, someone who has been considering going into Canadian politics for some time, well-known figure. Lots of speculation about him and whether he will make a play to be leader of the Liberal Party in the weeks and months to come. So that is what's happening. Of course, there is a big question of what this means for India. As you know, over the last couple of years, Justin Trudeau and his government have essentially presided over a complete breakdown in relations with India, because in September 2023, Justin Trudeau's government chose to make public allegations that members of India's government or officials associated with India's government were responsible for the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a noted Khalistan extremist, on Canadian soil. This was an allegation he made in front of the House of Commons, which is Canada's parliament, and it absolutely set a firestorm that has continued to rage in the India-Canada relationship. India has slammed Trudeau's government, said that this is a prime minister who values pandering to vote banks among extremist minority communities in Canada that support the Khalistan movement over doing the right thing, over targeting, over eradicating terrorism, and over the relationship that Canada has with India. That is the allegation it has made against him, that in fact he has chosen vote bank politics over sound policy, good national security policy, as well as good diplomatic policy in terms of a good relationship with India. So that is where we are at this point in time. India has, of course, withdrawn its High Commissioner from Canada. Several Canadian diplomats were expelled from India. Of course, Canada, remember, earlier in October had said that it believes several Indian officials had to be investigated with regards to attacks on Khalistani politicians, in Khalistani leaders in Canada. This was something that India was absolutely not willing to accept. So this mutual expulsion, it seems, took place. What has now happened is that the two sides are have effectively frozen their relationship. Remember, India had already expelled some Canadian diplomats before. Now you had the tit for tat expulsion. It has withdrawn its High Commissioner, has not appointed a new one, and therefore the bilateral relationship seems to be in deep freeze and will remain so until the Liberal Party stays in power. That's likely because Trudeau made those allegations and put his political credibility behind those allegations. It really does seem that until the Liberal Party is in power, no Prime Minister or no politician associated with that party can backtrack from the allegations he made. But the Conservative Party, which is led by Pierre Poilievre, a politician who is likely to be Canada's next Prime Minister because the Conservative Party is leading in all the polls, could change that equation. He has said very, very clearly that he believes the issue with India was badly mishandled. He has blamed Trudeau as incompetent, as corrupt. He has said that if I were in office, I would fix that relationship with India. He said, look, you can have different disagreements, you can have difficulties, but ultimately what you need is a professional relationship with India. And that is something that he will aspire to put into place. Therefore, there does seem to be some strain of thinking in India that, look, if the elections happen and as expected the Conservative Party wins, then we could see a turnaround in India's relationship with Canada. That's all we have for you in this live so far. We will continue to give you more details, but as we have it right now, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will resign after a decade in office, and his fall from power could mean that in the coming general elections, the Conservatives could come to power, and their leader, Pierre Poilievre, has made very clear that he wants a different relationship with India, which could be a sign of good things to come. But we'll keep you updated on this story as we do with all our other stories in the developing world of geopolitics. Thank you so much for watching us here on India Today Global.